Hope you don't feel embarrassed, Mr. Taylor, that I'm taking over your job here. People just become quiet.
Here's Howard and Alistair in the huddle.
Ah! No, you're just nice.
Just nice.
Here, well, coming over here. Looks good there, Dave. Peter's trying to ignore me.
Running backs got all the big money anyway.
Here we are, back at the good table.
You always showed up your backside. It's the only part we ever saw. Wally asked me to say a few things tonight about the 70 team. I was not on the 70 team. I wasn't on the 60 team. You said that, didn't you, Rick? Actually, the two guys here who weren't on the 69 team, and I think we had a pretty good team, 69. Yeah. It was a very close game to St. Thomas, and it could have gone either way, and if we had won, we probably would have won the city because St. Thomas went on. The main difference between the 69 team and the 70 team is the 70 team didn't have more set. Not in any of the teams. I figured it's because they never played them. Well, there was another championship team in 1970, and almost would have been good to have a double reunion, but it was the 1970 wrestling team. The quality sort of moved over. There's a lot of guys from our other wrestling team, Billy Chapman, Alvin, Robert, myself. Howard Sponge, Leon's not here. I hope it's like Peter McCauley. Is he? You know what? He told me there's no other friend. I'm one of the few guys who actually still lives in Chomedey. They maybe live right here. Wait, did you see the mustache now? Finally. Wally brought me the book, and I'd never seen the book, and I was going through the pictures, and oh, Norman.
Norman who?
Norman Jordan.
I remember him from kindergarten.
Norman's the only guy on the team that's actually shorter than he was then. Even with the boots. 140 pounds. He's 140 now, but he wasn't. You really want to have hear sad stories. That's Norm to tell you about his car. He said, in the last year, I knew them well. Lloyd had really no choice. He didn't like to play football. He didn't want to play football. But it was easier for him to play football than to have to be Alvin's tackling dummy. And he knew if you played football, when Alvin felt like fighting, he'd play with Melvin instead. Good picture of Jerry DeFilio. Hopefully Jerry will come later. Jerry was sure a great athlete, and I think most of us, I know I was pretty proud to see him go on and be a pro football player, and I still think he didn't really get the fair shot that was up to his talent. School, we were good friends. He was tough, stubborn, argumentative. I'll never forget his pose when he was running with the football. His teeth dried. He had 2 holes in his teeth were dried. It was sometimes alleged that we used to get into trouble with some of the high school matches. We still deny those allegations. And we're trying to identify the alligators. Trying to turn me off? But I didn't think we got into... I think we got in trouble at the Protestant schools asses. You should have seen how many Catholic schools there. We got thrown out. Alvin called me the other night because he had spoke to Wally, and Wally had told him that I wanted part of his 10 minutes. Because Alvin's got 10 minutes to speak. I said, oh, I know. Because I've never heard Alvin speak for 10 minutes. Well, Alvin was the star of the football team, one of the stars, and Mr. Bailey was always very concerned about Alvin. He used to come to me on Fridays after practice and say, Tony, I don't want you taking him out getting him in trouble. You don't care if I'm going to go. Well, I'll tell you, Mr. Bailey, I did think about it, but he got in his own problem. Actually, I was just training him to be tougher. Learn. Next picture's got Scotty Buchanan. I think he Wally works for Bell. They got lots of spare time.
Hey, that one for your wife?
I used to work for Bell. Leon Caron, too bad Leon's not here. I remember, on my mind, is many of you maybe remember Dorothy Davies. All Americans will say. Anyway, we were standing around the hall one day, leaning on the lockers, and for a while we had dress codes in high school, and Dorothy had a white blouse on, and over her left white dress, marked Dorothy. Alan looked and said, what's the other one called? The team picture here, December crashing a party at Carl's place one night. He didn't invite me, but I went anyway. We went into the garage door, and he was pretty mad. Carl was always most fun when he was mad. Howard Spongin, another good wrestler. Nothing bad to say about Howard. The picture here, when I was looking for the book, I really thought it was kind of powerful. There's 2 pictures of the headhunters, the 69 and 70. Picture of the 70 headhunters, if you get a chance to look at the book. It looked like it must have been 35 degrees below zero. Because they're standing here. Freezing. Try to read it. Reading is not very good. But he said, may I, on behalf of the faculty and students of our school community, extend our heartiest congratulations to players and coaches of our championship football teams. While the rewards of winning a championship are immediate, immediately obvious and enjoyed by the players, the more intrinsic rewards of this experience are yet to be deeply appreciated and recognized in the years ahead. Championship teams are built on the personal sacrifices made by both players and coaches and can truly be understood only by those who are closely associated with the team. In all cases, special commendation must be extended to those teachers who so freely and willingly gave of their free time to coach, as well as those members of the athletic department who volunteer their valuable support services. Football traditions have now been firmly established at Chomedey. Players that follow in the years to come will be challenged and extended to their utmost by the standards set by those that preceded them. It is not the size of the dog in a fight, the fight in the size of the dog. R.D. Ron Sharp. And I think that's a pretty good letter. A lot of good years. And I think the spirit like Chomedey I had was something special. Teachers like Mr. Bailey, Mr. Thomas, who spent their time, and then all the people here. Now this is jail that I know about. And it was good to have people like Wally organize a night like tonight so we can all remember and look back. Hopefully pass some of those things on to our kids. And I feel bad for the kids, the students going to Chomedey and some of those places today that don't have a wrestling team, a football team, and all those good times we had. And just like to thank you all. One last thing, tonight is my 11th wedding anniversary, and I'd like to thank you. Thank you. All right.
It's not the size of the dog in the fight, but fight in the size of the dog. Headhunters are a select group of football players. They are recognizable by a green hedge and emblem on their helmet. To qualify, a player must hit and like to be hit. Or as senior head coach Ray Bailey says, they must have a tough mental attitude. Do you remember that? That was taken from a sports column by Bob Morris, Thursday, October 28, 1969. The headhunters for the Chiefs, 1969 and 70 were Alvin Johns, ladies and gentlemen, Alvin Johns.
Well, I think I'm supposed to talk here for at least 10 minutes from a Norman point of view, but less than 10 minutes from a Wally point of view. After listening to Tony's speech, I think I'll cut it short to 2 minutes. He took all of my 10 minutes. Anyway, it certainly is a pleasure to be here. I'm going to echo a lot what Tony said. I guess it was about a year ago that Wally called me and said he's going to organize a reunion. Would I be interested in going? Of course, I said yes. When? Next week? No, a year down the road. And it certainly is a lot of work that went into organizing this, and I think of myself and the people that I talked to, it certainly greatly appreciated Wally, and also Howard, who helped out Wally the past couple of months. Certainly it's been worthwhile from my point of view to meet all these people and see how they've changed over the years or got better than what they were in the high school years. Also, I guess what's really amazing is that no tragedy hit the team with the exception of Mr. Roberts, which I certainly am very sad to do. He was a good coach as well as a very good man. But besides that, taking the players that we played with, we've all turned out very well. I think it's something we all have to be proud for. The other thing, I did speak to Jerry earlier this week, and he does pass on his apology for not coming here for lunch tonight. But he will try to get in here a little later on, and we probably show up. What it felt like in terms of being a captain for the Chomedey Chiefs And I guess my view back then is that being a captain was somewhat incidental, something that every team had to have. I guess I was selected to be the person. But I really didn't take it as being something personal in terms of being a star at all. One of the things that Ray tried to emphasize to us and did very well in the 3 years that I was associated with him is that the team is what really counts, and playing as a team would make winners. And that certainly did happen to us in 1970. But if you take a look at the 1970 team, it was more than just that year. It had a lot of character, and character is always built up over a number of experiences. And I'm just going to talk about the year that I was associated with Chomedey. And it started in 1967. And the first practice showed up, there was something like 8 people there. And Gallagher and I were the only people that knew each other. They did have some fairly good teams prior to that. And a lot of people went on. But what was left was just a few people returning and some junior players. It wasn't long before we realized that we couldn't have both a junior and senior team, so we combined both. And we put together a fairly competitive team. I think we were about 50% of St. Thomas. We weren't heavily underdogs for the game, but I think we went up there with a lot of determination to win. And I can hardly remember the going onto the field, but I certainly remember being on the field. And some of the biggest or hardest hits I've ever seen in the game was in that game. Both teams, both St. Thomas and Chomedey. Go back to some of the pictures here, you'll see Jerry Malakoff hitting Jerry, and he certainly had quite a big badge for that game, but he got up and continued playing the game. I know when I see Jerry Malakoff running through the line, I hit him once. He must have went back about 10 yards, and he still got up and went on. Jerry and I became really good friends. Sir George, I haven't seen him for the last 10 years, but we were good friends. The thing I guess that disappointed me about the game, or the thing that really sticks in my mind, wasn't the fact of losing the game. It was a disappointment. But going back into the dressing room after the game, there's a lot of people that were just sitting around with their heads and actually crying. And that was a real insight to me, because I guess when you're a teenager and all that, crying is not the end thing, but to see these 16, 17-year-old teammates really heartbroken because we lost the game, really struck home the way we were as a team and a family. The 1970 season was something that I'm very proud of, and we all should be very proud of, not just in terms of winning the championship game, but some of the activities that were involved in that year. Chomedey is called the Chiefs. The reason that it was called the Chiefs is because at the beginning of the season, we knew that we were going into the Lou Irving Memorial game. St. Thomas had their name. I don't know what it is. Maybe my wife Carol Ann knows. But she is from St. Thomas. So no grudges against people whatsoever. But going into that game, we needed a title, so we had a meeting in Mr. Donaldson's engineering shop, and we came up with the name Chiefs.
St. Thomas Knights.
St. Thomas Knights. That's right. And the name of the Chiefs is still running today in Chomedey, so we can be quite proud that we traveled to New Brunswick. Being involved in sports myself, kids growing up and so forth, I think back and I say, those coaches must have been crazy taking 25 on a train overnight to New Brunswick. And I'm not quite sure whether the coaches knew, but we did consume alcohol every now and then. No exception to the people down in New Brunswick. They also consumed stuff. To our surprise and amazement. The Americans pride themselves on this stuff called cherry jack.
Yeah.
Apple jack.
Double jack.
And,
Double jack.
Double jack is
Double jack.
Okay. We did have a little party after the game. The parents billeted us up in New Brunswick, and we all got together at either Friday or Saturday night, and we had a little do. We got into the Cherry Jack, and there's one moment that I think that we will never ever forget. The introduction of Cherry Jack, Doug Mendelsohn. Somebody took my pickle. I had a whole pickle on the floor here. Somebody came to pick it up. But we can somehow mix Cherry Jack and Doug Mendelsohn together, you get a whole pickle. I don't think every time you can ask that. Where's the party? Just going through the book here, which I haven't gone through for about 20 years. In fact, I forgot that Lloyd and I put the scrapbook together. Actually, Lloyd put the scrapbook together because I like the pictures. We did have a very successful season. I don't think we lost a game below 30, with a spread below 35 points. So that showed us how good we were. But one of the things I guess that really struck home to me as well is the highest praise that I think that anybody could ever get is from a peer, which is an opponent. And when we read through the paper one day, we had a quote from Coach Woods of LCC. Now, I don't have a quote here with me, but basically what it says is that the Chomedey Chiefs team under Coach Ray Bailey was possibly the best team that was ever produced in high school football in Montreal. And I believe that's true based upon the scores that we had. And the players that we had. Some people went on the 5-year plan, others the 4-year plan.
Academically, we weren't very good.
But nevertheless, being a winner by the magnitude that we did, playing as a team, I think that's important. Yeah, we had Gary DeFilio, but he wasn't the whole team.
That's right, I was there too.
The amazing thing is that Izzy remembered being there. I don't remember wrestling with Tony Rice, but football.
Tony who?
I guess in closing, when I talked to Jerry and I asked him whether he wanted to say anything, he said, yeah, just tell the people that playing high school football was the most fun he had in his whole life. And he went on, as you know, to play professional football, had a scholarship in the States, but when he reflects back and all that, his high school days were by far the best he ever had. Mainly because we played as a team, we had excellent coaches, there was no drugs, and most importantly, we played as a team and had friends. I guess from my side, looking back, Tony talked about the times that we had together, the times he had with Alistair. I think we were quite a small group where we lived, Chomedey. So we had a lot of good times. Being associated with friends in high school as well brings back a lot of good memories for myself. And I guess when I have a teenager, just turned a teenager now, 13, son, and I reflect back and say, I just think, I say, geez, I hope this guy, my other son, my daughter, when they're going through high school, will have as much fun and meet the quality people that I meet, that I've met, and just have the good teenager life that I had. And hopefully he will. I guess what I like to do is thank each one of you for making my life very enjoyable. Thank you very much.
Great pleasure, but it is. I don't want to be redundant. Giving me a great honor to do this, so why should I begin? I am saying this with a lot of pride, and I'm just, the right introduction, I'm just thrilled to introduce one of the greatest guys on our team, Mr. Ken Thomas. Wally. And he said, I'm planning a great deal for you. I said, when? He said it wouldn't be until springtime. We were planning on going back over to Europe. And I was a little worried about the fact that we have cut our trip over to Europe short. So, because that's how important it is. I've said it before, and I'll go on to say it. My time at Chomedey High was a real high. People, students who were friends. I don't think I associate myself with a greater group dedicated. I do it well. Nicer, more dedicated. Just the greatest. I don't know, I can't make any excuses. I've been teaching for 3 years now, so I can't talk anymore, But, I finally graduated 3 years ago. And, but after I left Chomedey, I moved up the country. But to be honest with you, I miss this group of people. We're something special. I look back, and it's been bothering me ever since Wally gave me that phone call. Because he said something. He said, you're not just going to sit in your butt there and eat. You're going to have to say something. Well, I said, well, hang on. He said, that's the deal. So, I came off the phone, and I was looking with that high. Vaughn didn't know what was wrong. Whether I said right there what was wrong, I was really bouncing. And she said, what is up? I said, what happened? And I said, what do you mean? So, but the thing is, always talk. I said, I can't talk. She said, again, you can't talk. You can't breathe. But, in all seriousness, I think the thing that impressed me so much the group of people, the team, the fact that winning wasn't everything. You had that determination. You were going to do your best, very best. I closed my eyes and I can remember the bus trips. Going to the game, after the game fine, before the game, the two captains would give a signal to us. Just heads bow, that concentration. And there wasn't a murmur and squeak. And I think these games, the away games, were really something special. We went on a few bus trips. Boats, we went to Georgetown. And, apart from the egg, swimming that we had there. 3 coaches, the bus driver decided that we were staying in a hotel. And it was about the best morning to get guess we decided to get better. And I don't even remember the coach's name from Georgetown, but he loaned us his little car. The last I remember him saying was, keep her between the pines. So we headed out now. Mr. Red Roberts. He decided that it was hungry. We had the bus driver. Well, let's put it. I was in the car. I was driving, and Ray and John, the bus drivers, got into this jitney. Well, went into this restaurant. So I was kind of like smack, but ended up wearing steaks. And we came out, I guess, through the excitement of the next day's game, that I took this key and I used the trunk key. The guy didn't tell me about it, but the trunk key and the ignition key were the same. But the door key was another, but yeah, the door key might as well the door. I put this ignition key lock, snapped off, but here we are, miles from our motel. So it ended up that the three jumping chief coaches were sitting on our butts on the curb, while the bus driver did the jogging bit back to the motel, get this 60-passenger bus, picking something big and fat. So I spent most of the morning sitting there with a file, trying to get the key made bus, but these are the little other things. There was another time I walking off in and you come back out, but swear on her. I'm going to get back. Next day, he comes in, he's got reserve. But I was a little, he comes in, he's got reserve. But I was a little concerned tonight when I got the phone call from Wally, and then he came up to that little he was telling me that he had a doctor's present. And I was waiting in my boots because I was thinking back to some of the people that I was just wondering if they come back and kind of, tell me what a wonderful job I'd done, or maybe it was because, the wonderful job that I'd done on them that turned them their heads towards medicine, But maybe it was malpractice. I was a little, but I was worried about related. When I walked in here tonight, was that term honest to goodness. I think that's very important. I think maybe I should get a little older. This is I believe that really how shape people are here. I think if we get out and got the old uniforms on, I think we could whip St. Thomas. I've been an admirer of Rayville for a good number of years. I think his contribution to the political parish kind of on the sad note, Big John actually become Big Bear. Great success for John
Dear Mr. Jewett, please be advised that your long outstanding debt of $35.50 for the last 2 decades has finally been taken care of by the CPHS Football Team Benevolent Fund. This debt, with an acquired interest of $149.47, bringing the total amount to $184.97, was for our white football jersey number 24, which disappeared under very mysterious circumstances. The current phys ed staff at CPHS wishes you many more happy years of wearing with number 24. Sincerely, Mrs. Francis Holt, phys ed department head. P.S. Is this sweater ready for a Tide commercial yet? This is George Green here now. On half this, we continue to our thinking I haven't written anything down here to say about it because it is very hard. I think that Mr. Bailey speaks for himself when he stands and talks, when he tells you to go through the meat grinder. When he says you were up late last night, it's Lover's Lane. Or just a one-on-one with Alvin or the big line guys. He's contributed an awful lot to my life through the years, even though I haven't seen him very often and haven't played football for him in 20 years. I find that I am a stronger person for what I've gone through because of him. I don't know what else to say except ladies and gentlemen, here is Mr. Ray Bailey.
There's been a few changes in the past few years. I've got a little grayer here, and you guys got a little grayer up here. I've taken off 40 pounds, so you put on 40 pounds. I wear glasses now, by the way. But what I thought I might do is Tony and Albert and have talked with teams sort of more historical things. And I thought maybe you would like to sort of get a feel of how I remember the team. So I checked out, and I think we have 69, 70 teams because I see them as sort of almost interconnected. And so I'm just going to give you a few memories. What I remember. Well, the first one was already mentioned, Lover's Lane. I remember down on the field, the back of the field down Martin. I better use the lighting. Somebody did something wrong, I can't remember what it was. And so I just called up to the captain, Alvin, and great to have a guy like that out there. And of course the rest of it, everybody knew what the basic qualifications were, like football. And they had to go through that over slice. It's like it's actually designed after a kind of punishment that Sioux Indians put people who had to run through a line.
Conquest.
I guess, I'm not sure what that means. The other one, the next thing I remember was when Lenny Matt came up. He came up about two weeks late.
Yeah.
And Lenny was a big, impressive looking guy that, I guess honestly, thought that he had already made a team. So, in order to put him through the mill, we put him through what we call a tough drill. And we had guys like Alvin and I can't remember who the other guys were, but Leon Farrell and W. Nevinson, et cetera, et cetera. And it was a drill which really tested him for about 10 minutes of hard hitting. And when he stood up, and he made the team right there. I know, like, for instance, if you remember the Nutcracker drill where you have,
What's that?
An awful lot of drills.
where you have a lineman and an offensive and defensive lineman back. Well, I learned that from my own experience. And I know myself that I had to make football based on the drills, where you have coaches like Ozzy, who are right in front of everything. And letting me make it right here. And I guess it's one of those ones that when I'm tracking them. Another experience which I remember really quite vividly. It was 69. We were playing St. Thomas, which has been brought up many times. And personally, I can say the St. Thomas game was the highlight of my high school football career, maybe the highlight of my whole career. Because we had a team which hadn't really proven themselves in the big leagues yet. We had won our league, we smashed our opposition, etc. But we hadn't really been able to test ourselves against a good team, a championship team. I remember Chuck Frankel asking me a couple of days before can we win? I just didn't know. I said, sure. Well, I remember when I took you down into the wrestling, it's the old wrestling area. We had a meeting. And I spent, I'm sure, half an hour propagandizing about everything, every advantage you had. And we did have some advantage. And boy, I'll tell you, that game was, to me, a super football game. It really proved that you guys had it. We lost, sure, but it was so fun. Another experience which I remember was when the year was over, we won a championship, and we had a group setting up a tremendous award night, and then Howard got up and read that poem. That, to me, is something I'll learn again. Another thing that struck my, you'll have to excuse my language here. We were on our way to play road here, which was our perennial competition. And up until then, we had been able to handle the road here, but we never really beaten it very badly. And we came by bus along to the field, and on the team, I'm pretty sure it might have been 69. There was a huge sign as big as that wall, Chomedey sucks.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we ended up winning that game 53 something. Another interesting memory was after the final win in the Verdun Stadium, in the dressing room, when Peter McCauley handed me that headdress. I'll never forget that. And I look at the headdress, it's up here. It's a little bit brown now. I wonder whether he had some help making that or not, but it's well made. It's really an interesting piece of work. And I really treasure that piece. I don't think I've ever really thanked him for that. But that's been up in my study for 20 years. Got a little dusty at times. Another experience now, these are all things that I can't mention everybody here, but there are things that stick out in my mind. I remember this must have been 68, may have been 69, but it was when Dave Donaldson made it as far as I was concerned. Dave was a slim person when he grew up.
I never knew him though.
Hey, what happened? All of a sudden, we had some kind of a drill down by the gold mine, and God, all of a sudden I could hear a crack. And Dave,
That was Alvin running you over.
no, but you doing your job, and as far as I'm concerned, that's when you made it. Another point for somebody made was we're watching game films. One of those game films. I think this must have been 68, could have been 69. But Howard, were you there in 68? So I think it was 68. And we were going over the game film. And you know the game films are there for two reasons. One is to teach you something, to show your mistakes, but also it's to motivate the factor. Well, all of a sudden, Howard comes out of the center position, and he knocks this guy back 6 yards. And I pointed it out. And Howard hadn't done this up to that point, so he must have been 68. And everybody saw that Howard had it. And I knew it. He knew it. And his career was off. That's the way I remember it. I also remember after the 70 season that the amount of work that Carl and Howard and Val and Judy did, all behind the scenes, secret. Nobody knew what was going on. And it was in my office. In fact, I have a picture of it. And it's kind of off my office. That's something I remember. I also remember the night before the game against St. Thomas that were done in 1970. It was, I don't think it was raining, but it was sort of a dull day. And John Roberts and I, we always wanted to survey our environment before we played. And so we went down there. It must have been 9 o'clock at night. And we ran around the stadium, and we checked the field just to see what we needed to do the next day. John was, he was with me for 4 years at Chomedey, and I worked with him at McGill for another 7 years. Really sad thing to see him go. But Ken and John were so reliable and close as you would know, you couldn't understand how important that is. When I left Chomedey and I went to McGill, you know, my office looks out onto the field, and I would see the team practice. And I remember the days when we were out there, and it was very hard for me. Because my high school career as a coach was far more important than my university years as a coach. There was far more meaning. I could see people growing, gaining something. But I also saw in the years after 1971 coaches who weren't totally committed. Some would come up and practice, and others, one day or another day. There wasn't a day when Ken and John, I can't remember ever missing a practice with you guys. And that's, I mean, we were all in it together. And you guys did the same thing. I remember in 69, both 69 and 70, arriving at Lachine to play them. Again, they were sort of an arch rival at the sort of end of the season. And Ken mentioned the bus. The bus situation is very important. You guys were as quiet and contemplating as you could possibly. Obviously, an environment had been set for you. That you guys were more mature in many ways than some of the professional teams that I played in that sense. Anyway, what I remember in the machine was you get off the bus I wouldn't have to say anything. Alvin and Jerry would take you over. You knew exactly where to go. You knew exactly what to do. And you warmed up, and boy, did you guys look sharp. Not only at the machine, but everywhere you went, you intimidated your opposition just by the way you behaved. That was really something that I remember. And you watch, some teams today, you begin to wonder. The mountain game has been mentioned. The train ride down, and the train ride back, and the crying girls at the train on I can remember that. But the thing that I remember the most, the mistakes, the most things, with you guys, you went on the train, half of you got a little bit of sleep. I imagine. We got off the train, and what we do, we went to practice. Right from the train, we went to practice. We went to school, we went to practice, and they had to play that afternoon. We had a game, we arrived, I don't know, around 8 in the morning, let's say. We had a game in the afternoon at 2, and we went to practice before. And there was no complaints. The reason for that, of course, is to sort of get loosened up, or get your mind directed in the other way. And I think we ended up winning 35 to 5 or something.
41-1.
No, not Moncton. That's the same problem.
Or whatever, it was a white boy.
I don't think it.
Well, we partied after that though.
But James agreed that that team that we beat went on 2 days later and beat the next team by almost 100 points.
That's right. We all went down to see the game. And they averaged about 255 pounds that thing down. There's a couple more. One thing here that I remember, and Alvin's already talked about it. It's the time that we got together to make the team. I guess it came about by the fact that when St. Thomas and another game and that kind of thing. Anyway, we got together in Ken Donaldson's electrical shop. And I'm sure that most of the team was there. I can't really remember. Probably was a lunch hour. And we started to decide on what would be the name. And one of them was Chiefs. And I had heard, and somebody had told me that the job had a little bit of Indian in them. And I don't know, but that seemed the job seemed to symbolize the strength of the team. And it was always automatic. And 20 years later, that name is still the name of the team in Chomedey High. Although it's a sad thing that the sports has almost disappeared. But it's still there. In fact, I think even the girls use the term Chiefs as their name. And I'll bet you that there's not one person in Chomedey High knows. They will know. But they probably don't know. I don't know if anybody, not even Fran Holt, knows how that name came about unless Wally has told Fran Holt. I'm going to ask Fran Holt if she'd be the only one that said this last name. The last memory is one which I actually tell people. High school is a tough time for kids. A lot of them don't get the kind of experience you had, and I'm sure that you didn't care that much about some parts of high school. But, but imagine this. Ken mentioned away game. When we would come back after a game, and we won all those games, the bus would approach Hartsville Bridge from over to Chomedey Boulevard. And when the kids saw the school, they actually cheered. Now, how many private school kids would actually cheer when they see their no, something I remember. And that, to me, meant something. That high school really meant something to you guys. Now, I think it's important to mention a couple of things before I leave. You are, the Chomedey Chiefs of 1970 are not just the product of that particular year and that particular coaching staff. My brother started the physics system in that area. He's gone. Died in 1977. He was somebody I looked up to, somebody that I worked with. I'm sure that many of you had in either your classes or in some form in high school. He was a fantastic individual and sports leader, education person. He set up a system right through the elementary school, right from Martinvale, Hillshead, St. Paul, the wrestling program started there. About half our team are wrestlers. You can't tell me that wrestling didn't help you in football. And then we had a coaching staff that was united from Benham Junior, Senior. People like Bob Hubbard, for instance. John Bennett. You know, John Bennett's gone. He died for 5 years. Just fantastic people. And we used to get together. We developed our drills together. We taught each other. We worked together so that you guys all came up with a similar system. You are a special group. When you went out on that field, I remember playing Dutton, my God, it was like a machine up there. And you would get, you know, they'd kick the bus, and we'd line up, and you'd set up your blocking, you'd mow them down, and you'd touch them. They still hadn't been developed. And so that it goes way beyond just the specific coaching staff. Finally, I'd like to thank Wally in particular for the fantastic job he's done in setting this up. It's a help from Howard. I know Howard has helped me in the past, and he's a great man to have, a right-hand man. Winning may not be everything, and I agree with that, but it's important. You guys won. The 1971 team lost in the final. Very, very close team. And after that game, the kids couldn't believe it. But they actually, when I come down the hall, they slipped through the door with the motivation. That's how hard it was for them. And you guys have been able to carry on. My father played on the 1919 McGill team, and all through my life, I heard everything about this 1919 McGill team. They used to get together. So you really have something going for it. Thank you very much.